Hello there, welcome to the video. In this video we will look at day 2 of the finals at the Opera Euro Rapid. The matchup between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen. Now day 1 was drawn. A nice match which you can check out in my previous video. Also small apologies for, well not small apologies, apologies for that video because I made a small error when cropping the names last minute. I had this great idea to make the names bigger and forgot to crop out the captured pieces, so that was a bit annoying, but life goes on and I fixed it for this video. And we're gonna get right into it. Game 1 on day 2, Wesley with white pieces, and I had predicted in the other video that Magnus would go for the Sicilian, which he did. He struggled a bit against Wesley's excellent preparation in the Italian. So we have a Sicilian here. And I think this is, actually I didn't check, but if my memory doesn't fail me, this is also in Wesley's course, 1e4. And to me, slightly surprising that Magnus, well, he goes away from the World Championship preparation. He played g6 against Caruana, but here he played e6. Okay, the game progressed, and well, the moves we see now, we're more used to seeing them in the Spanish, and indeed after these normal moves, bishop e7, rook e1, rook c8, maybe not the most normal we would like to get developed, but if black were to at some stage play d6 and e5, we basically have the Ruy Lopez. But that doesn't happen quite yet. b4, or at all, and now d4. This is what white tries to strive for in most openings, to get the central pawn duo, because it's very flexible and gives many possibilities. So here, yeah, black needs to make a choice. Can we play d5? If we play d5, maybe we don't have the greatest French structure ever. Something like probably e5. And I'm not sure what's going on here. So Magnus goes for knight g6 here. Knight b to d2. So no decision on the central pawns yet by Magnus. Knight to a5. And here Wesley decides to play against this knight over here. I think it was Kasparov that said, you know, knight on g6, knight on b6. You just have to have a pawn against it, and you will dominate it. And furthermore, after bishop e7, we have h4. And now if black were to castle, we will push this pawn, hit the knight, and the only square is to the corner, which is ugly. So I guess Magnus did not fancy that. And he went for something crazy. He took on h4, bishop takes h4. A piece sacrifice, but let's have a look. Takes. So what does black have attacking? One queen. He's not going to mate with one queen. This knight is over here. The diagonal is closed. The rook is not getting in. So I'm wondering what the sacrifice was all about. Wesley just played rook e3, fortifying the third rank, getting more pieces to the defense. Rook g3. Magnus castled. Now more pieces to the defense. Knight to f3. Knight into e5, offering a queen trade. And Magnus has to take it because, well, where can you go? If you go back, I play bishop h6, and who's attacking? Exactly. So queen trade. And, well, we have a trade here. Wesley takes on a b4. After knight c4, he plays a5, not allowing black to play a5, just keeping the knight here. d5, bishop g4, hitting the pawn, and, well, Magnus just crumbles. He has not been impressive this tournament, clearly out of form. And guess what? He's going to be down a rook. He took on g5 and then resigned. White is up a rook. And I think even Lecco said that this game was about as bad as he had seen Magnus look or lose in a long while, even in his career. So we're gonna go to game 3. Game 2, Magnus had the white pieces and did not make much headway, and Wesley made a draw without, basically without any problems. So we go to game 3, and again, Wesley with white, and again, 1 to e4. Best according to Wesley's test, apparently. And having struggled in c5, Magnus goes back to e5 now. And again we have the Italian. But this time around, quiet, Gioco Pianissimo. Gioco Piano by Wesley. He doesn't go for the same line he did on day 1. We have a5 here by Magnus. Rook to e1, castles. And these typical maneuvers, knight b to d2, going to f1, and then probably eventually to g3. After this, bishop e5, avoiding the trade. Seen this many times before. Knight to e7. Knight very often ends up on g6. White cannot break in the center. c6. Bishop comes back and knight to g6. h3. Knight comes to h5. And note that, we probably don't have tactics, do we? Yeah. Looks like we might have a tactic here, which Wesley did not go for. But, okay, we get this, but I think black has a choice. He might be able to simply take it and take on d4. And he might also be able to take with a knight here. Pawn takes, and this hangs. Probably that's better, yeah, that's definitely better. Just take with a knight to drop a piece. You can't take on h5 because I take this. Sorry, this one. And if you take this, I take, and you can't take on h5 because of this. So no tactics hung there by the world champion. Bishop e3, therefore, by Wesley. The knight cannot jump into f4. White wants to keep the light squared bishop, so he retreats to c2, and now queen c8. And, well, the plan is clear by the world champion. Take on h3. This becomes a possibility. After bishop e3, it becomes a very real possibility. And perhaps Magnus should have gone for this. Takes. Computer wants to freaking a4. I think the reason is to get the bishop off this diagonal, maybe get the e6 square later. You can maybe take this, we're threatening mate. So this is forced, and now knight e3, covering the mate. And now the rook can maybe enter, and this looks quite dangerous. Computer likes black here. So a missed opportunity perhaps by Magnus, but not as big as this one. After knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, queen takes d4. Magnus has a huge tactical shot here, which again, he missed. He can take on g2 with a knight. And this works because we take, bishop takes h3. Note that we can't go on the run because queen comes into g4. And this will be immediately made if you go to f3. g3 is made in 2. So we go to h2, but now the knight enters, knight to h2. And, well, let's have a look at two choices. Queen takes d6, the knight comes in with jack, then we take, and this is incoming here, so we have to lose a lot of material. Queen back, covering the mate, but takes, and black is up the exchange, and the pawn. What about, instead of queen takes d6, bishop d1, covering the knight from checking us on f3, but then the nice move, bishop g2, and we're coming in. Can't stop it, there's no stopping this. Making Luft, we don't care. Take or lose the queen, you can't defend. Mate, mate, you defend, check, and checkmate. So knight takes d2, another big miss by Magnus. Takes on b3 instead. And yeah, great opportunity missed. But finally here he goes for an attack on h3. Seems like he insists on sacrificing, but not in as good of a circumstance as he could have done earlier. f4, knight into h4, knight h2, took on e4. So we have three pieces for the piece. Queen g3, king h1, knight to f5, and we have a queen trait. Magnus took on e3 and f5. So basically the material is equal, but it's difficult to say. I think it's difficult for white to attack the pawns and also for him to create his own pass pawns. And actually, well, after a lot more moves, this game was drawn. King f6, we have takes, g5, trying to create some pass pawns. And that's a lot of pass pawns actually. And they're coming. After rook h8, h3, knight into g3, h2. And now we have some simplification incoming. Rook f6, and now we get the nice touch by Magnus. He under-promoted instead of making a queen. It's going to be captured anyway, so why not make a knight? Still winning if you don't take, because we take on g3. but okay. And from here we get a rook ending. Magnus gets the pawns back, and it's basically a dead draw. So they have a perpetual check, but Magnus survives. Very important. And now he gets a final shot to even it up on day 2. Take it to the tiebreaks. All he has to do is win one game of chess with the white pieces. So, can he do that? e4, e5. We have another Italian, bishop c4. Knight f6, we have this move order, and now bishop c5. Magnus also goes for c3, castles. d6, rook into e1 and a5. And Wesley now goes for, well, an aggressive option. He plays h6 and g5. Maybe a strange choice given that he only needs a draw, but let's see how that works out. Bishop e6, according to my database, a novelty. I think the idea is basically not to get hit with a tempo once white is playing d4, so kind of a prophylactic move. The knight comes out now, and note that this maneuver makes less sense now because the g3 square is not available, although we could come to e3, so maybe it makes some sense. Knight h7, knight into c2, but Magnus's idea is, well, he's going to go this route and maybe target these squares. Let's see, h5. Our bishop is being, well, its life is being threatened with h4, so we have to make luft. Note that if you play h4, we play bishop g4. This is very similar to the video I did on a very good trap for black in the Italian, which you should check out if you're interested in opening theory. But h3 here. h4, bishop comes back to h2, and now g4 by Wesley. Magnus took it and played d4. We have a trait. She takes d4 and knight g5. So black is trying to use this pin here. But Magnus unpins. And Wesley takes with the knight. He could have taken with the bishop. Taken on d4 with the idea to play, after queen takes, to play knight takes f3, winning the queen. But probably e5 is strong here because we have a pin on this pawn. And we're threatening to land this check, and that could be huge. So Wesley preferred to take with the other one, with the knight and bishop h5. Still e5. And computer thinks this is quite strong for white. After d5, he played bishop b3. It's also very interesting to go for something like queen to e3. Second piece, but what's going on? Bishop g6, e6. Black has to find really precise moves. Queen e7, bishop e5, threatening mate, f6, giving up the piece, but we liquidate. We trade the queens. The bishop has to move, and now black will get the pawn on d4. And probably Magnus can't win this. So if he looked at lines like this, he probably didn't fancy his chances. Played bishop e3, a4, and here afterwards Magnus said that, you know, his intuition said, and it was actually screaming to play king to h1. And if he does, and black takes the piece, rook g1 check. This is basically GG. If you play bishop g6, I take it. I give a check, I bring the rook, you're mated, next move. Okay, but what about king h8? I play e6. Trying to keep things closed here with f6, but queen to f5. And now the bishop doesn't have squares. It goes to e8, queen f4. And now we will find out why e8 is actually not a good square for the bishop. Because after the seemingly only defense queen e7, we have check. And queen takes f8. And now we see that the bishop is hurting black. Because the rook is disconnected. White wins. But bishop d1 was Magnus's choice. Okay, he misses an opportunity that was probably completely winning. But he's still better. Queen e2, bishop takes d4. He's sacking a pawn, but perhaps dangerous threats incoming. Queen h5. But here he should have played rook to g4. And the attack continues. Maybe c5, bishop c2, pressure on this. On pinch, we take, we double the rooks. And we're not down on anything. And white has a very dangerous e-pawn. You can push the queen back, and then push the pawn. And computer actually thinks white is just winning. But Magnus played queen d2. And now after c5, played f4. But queen h6, pinning the pawn. And after rook g5, Wesley found the move f6. And after this move, it seems like white's winning chances are no more. Queen takes d5, king to the corner. And now Magnus is just saddled with a sorry bishop here on h2, blocked by its own pawn. So he even decided to sack the exchange. But Wesley didn't even take it. Well, not yet. He played a3. That's an annoying pin. Unpinning, but ab. He wants to queen the pawn. But wait, we can take the bishop and then queen. Prevent him from queening? No. Queen takes g6. We are queening. Takes, and Wesley is off the exchange now after all. The queen comes back to the defense. And now seeking a rook trade. Eventually Magnus has to go for it. But now he simply doesn't have enough material to do anything. Queen d2, bishop g4, hitting the bishop, protecting it, and now h3, opening up lines to facilitate a perpetual check. King takes, check. Now the rook comes into the game, and Magnus can't really try anything. And after these moves, rook d2, well, black is actually winning if he wants. But Wesley only needed to draw, so he took the safe route here and gave the perpetual check and won the Opera Euro Rapid. His second win in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. 2 wins out of 3. Meanwhile, Magnus has yet to win an event here. Radjabov took the second event, the Air Things Masters. So a pair of silver medals for Magnus, and he can't be happy with that. And I think we will see a resurgent Magnus in the next tournament, which is in about a month. And well, I'm looking forward to that. And this will conclude my coverage of the Opera Euro Rapid. So now it's on to some juicy stuff, some patterns, some openings, and I'm really looking forward to that. And hope you're too. And hope to see you then. Thanks for your attention. See you later. Bye bye.